Good afternoon, students. So today's topic is countercurrent mechanism from renal physiology. So we will see introduction of this countercurrent mechanism or system, and then we will see few examples and what are the countercurrent multipliers and exchanges in the human kidney and few applied aspects. So that will complete the class. So now we will proceed with introduction. So it is a system, counter current system is a system in which the inflow runs parallel to and counter to and in close proximity to the outflow for some distance. Okay, so this counter current system is a system in which the inflow, okay, the flow, it is flow means any liquid form. Okay, so inflow runs parallel to, counter to and in close proximity to the outflow for some distance. So same liquid is flowing in inward side and outward side. So these two systems or these two tubes are placed parallel to and counter to and in close proximity. So these three words you should remember. So the conditions to be fulfilled are two tubes in parallel and then the movement in opposite direction in close proximity. So the same thing, parallel to and counter or opposite direction and close proximity, and the membrane should be selectively permeable. So before going into details of the mechanism, so it is better for you to know the meaning of concurrent and counter current. So in concurrent flow, the two fluids flow in the same direction. So as we are seeing here, the two fluids are moving in the same direction. Variable gradient is present over the length. So as the flow is going on, the gradient will be varying and capable of moving. So the fluids are capable of moving half of the property from one flow to the other, no matter how long the exchanger is. So as long as the exchanger, the tubes are present parallel to and in close proximity, so there is capability of moving half of the property from one tube to or one flow to other. So this exchange stops when equilibrium is reached and gradient declines to zero. So when the equilibrium is reached between the two tubes or two flows, that is equilibrium means in terms of ions. Okay, so that at that point of time the exchange will be stopped. And in counter current flow, two fluids flow in opposite direction. Nearly constant gradient is present between the two flows over their entire length. So the gradient is variable in the concurrent flow, and here the gradient will be constant. With long length and low flow rate, it's capable of transferring all the property from one fluid to other. So in previous we have seen it is capable of transferring only half percentage, that is 50%. So here with long length and low flow rate, it's capable of transferring all the property. So 100% transfer exchange occurs from one flow to the other. So that is the difference between concurrent and counter current flow. And next, these are few examples in fish. So fishes use it in their gills to transfer oxygen from surrounding water to blood. So the same countercurrent mechanism operates here in the gills of the fish. And birds use it in their legs to conserve core body heat. And in humans, these are present in the heat to conserve heat in acral parts of the body. So acral parts means limbs. Okay, so heat to conserve the heat, this counter current system of blood flow will be present in the acral parts or limbs of the body. And human kidney uses this counter current flow in loop of Henle and vasa recta to produce concentrated urine. So this is loop of Henle, and the blood vessels one surrounding structure, that is the vessels surrounding the nephron loop of Henle are the vasa recta. So between loop of Henle and vasa recta, this counter current flow or mechanism operates. So in the kidney, the long loop of Henle establishes a vertical osmotic gradient, that is counter current multiplier. So loop of Henle establishes a vertical osmotic gradient, and their vasa recta preserve this gradient while providing blood to the renal medulla. So the vasa recta preserves this osmotic gradient which is produced by loop of Henle while providing blood to the renal medulla. So the vasa recta is called counter current exchanger. And the collecting ducts of all nephrons use the gradient in conjunction with hormone vasopressin to produce urine of varying concentrations. So that is osmotic equilibrating device, collecting ducts. Okay, so collectively this entire functional organization is known as medullary countercurrent system. So this countercurrent system or exchange system operates in the medullary neurons, not in the cortical. So why urine is concentrated or diluted? So what is the importance of urine concentration or dilution? Kidney is the major regulator of water loss from the body, as other routes of water loss like sweating and respiratory passages, GIT, etc. are not under regulation. So the kidney is the major regulator of water loss from the body. And for conservation of water in times of hypotension or hyperosmolarity, and this is done mainly by the influence of ADH or water conserving hormone on distal convoluted tubule. Water moves across tubular membrane with osmotic gradient. So hyperosmotic environment is created in interstitial fluid of renal medulla. So this conservation of water in times of hypotension or hyperosmolality is mainly under the influence of antidiuretic hormone. So the normal solute concentration of interstitial fluid is 300 milliosmoles per liter in renal cortex and 1200 milliosmoles per liter in renal medulla. And the major solutes for contributing for this concentration and dilution are sodium chloride and urea. And major role in maintenance of osmotic gradient is thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. So this plays very important role in maintaining this osmotic gradient across this renal cortex and medulla. And the factors responsible for production and maintenance of osmotic gradient are for production of osmotic gradient, differences in water and solute permeability in different segments of nephron. So this is the major factor, differences in water and solute permeability in different segments of nephron for production of the osmotic gradient, which is done by the loop of Henle. And for maintenance of osmotic gradient, counter current mechanism operating in loop of Henle and vasa recta both will be maintaining the osmotic gradient. So gradient is nothing but a graded change in the magnitude of some physical quantity or dimension in a given direction. So a graded change. Okay, so the number, this is graded, right? 300 to 1200, like this. A graded change in the magnitude of some physical quantity or dimension in one given direction. So a concentration gradient in renal medullary interstitium is present, which is important in the formation of concentrated urine. This renal gradient is due to countercurrent mechanism operating in loop of Henle and vasa recta. Okay, so in kidney, this gradient is maintained in this direction from cortex to medulla. So this is maintained by loop of Henle and vasa recta by countercurrent mechanism. So that is the gradient which we are going to talk in this class. So in steady state, water intake and water output must be equal. So which is like this, water intake is total 2500 ml, so out of which ingested fluids, ingested food and aerobic metabolisms are these values. And water output per day is again urine 1500 ml, feces 100 ml, insensible loss 900 and total again 2500 ml. So values are only indicative and it will vary depending on the diet, physical activity and temperatures, humidity, etc. So renal mechanism for diluting urine. Formation of dilute urine depends on decreased secretion of ADH from pituitary, and kidneys continue to absorb solute while fail to absorb the water. So that is the reason why the kidneys will produce dilute urine. So it is because of decreased secretion of ADH from pituitary. Remember this point. And renal mechanism for concentrated urine, production of concentrated urine is achieved by continuing to secrete the solutes while increasing the water reabsorption. So water reabsorption should be more and the solutes should be secreted into the lumen of the nephron. So this requires high level of ADH and highly osmolar renal medullary interstitium. So these are the requirements for production of concentrated urine. So main is the ADH. High, if the ADH is high, automatically the water will be reabsorbed and solutes will be secreted into the collecting duct. So ADH increases the permeability of distal tubule and collecting ducts to water. So highly osmolar renal medullary interstitium provides osmotic gradient for water reabsorption in presence of ADH. So these are the two situations. One is diluted urine and one is concentrated urine. As you can see, there is a color change here because it is concentrated. So the osmolarity is increased to 1200 compared to the starting 300. Okay. And here the osmolarity has decreased. Okay. Here 300, it is decreased to 50 only. So it is because of water reabsorption is not present because of low ADH. And here high ADH is present. So water is more reabsorbed than the solute. So urine is concentrated. And then hyperosmotic medullary interstitium. So there is a progressively increasing osmolar gradient in the medulla. So this gradient is due to loop of Henle acting as multiplier and vasa recta acting as exchanger, and also urea cycling contributing to the medullary osmolality. So this medullary osmotic gradient is maintained or produced because of these three things. That is, one is multiplier, which is loop of Henle, one is exchanger, which is vasa recta, and then urea cycle. So first we will see the counter current multiplication system. It is a process in which small osmotic gradient established at any level of loop of Henle, which is multiplied into larger gradient. Okay, small osmotic gradient established at any level of loop of Henle is multiplied into larger gradient. So it is a single effect. Active transport of sodium and chloride out of thick ascending limb and high permeability of thin descending limb to water. Solute deposition in medulla and removal of water from the descending limb takes place in the loop of Henle. So in the medulla, the solutes will be deposited or secreted into the loop of Henle and water will be removed from the descending limb. So this is the picture of loop of Henle, descending limb and ascending limb. So descending limb is freely permeable to water and here it is impermeable to water. So this will produce nearly the medullary osmotic gradient, that is 1200, because water is completely moved out of the descending limb into the interstitium. So interstitium will be becoming uh, hyper interstitium will be becoming hypoosmolar, and from here as the fluid moves into the ascending limb, the sodium chloride will move out. Okay, so that's why the gradient of 200 will be produced in the segment. So that is the multiplied by the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle. So in this picture, we can see the steps involved in production of hyperosmotic medullary interstitial gradient. So this is the loop of Henle, thick descending limb and thin descending limb and thick ascending limb and medullary interstitium. So first of all, before starting, so the osmolarity of the fluid is same as the plasma, that is 300 milliosmoles per liter. So this is varying, or this value osmolarity changes as the new fluid comes into the thin descending limb every time. So what is happening in the thick ascending limb, because it is impermeable to water, it is only permeable to sodium chloride. So the osmolarity decreases. So this interstitial osmolarity increases. So for equilibrating with this interstitium, thin descending limb, uh, what it does, it sends out or pumps out water. So it will be equilibrated. So again new fluid comes in with 300. So that time again the same process repeats. So here the gradient increases. So again thick ascending limb sends out sodium chloride. So here the gradient changes, and for equilibrating with this values also will change. So this process goes on till it reaches the equilibrium, and that value will be nothing but 1200 milliosmoles per liter. So this we will see in a short animated video so that you can easily understand.
Where the osmolarity is identical to that of normal body fluids. The first step involves sodium leaving the ascending limb, either by passive diffusion in the thin ascending limb or by the NAK2Cl cotransporter in the thick ascending limb. Because the thick ascending limb is impermeable to water, water stays behind and the osmolarity of the thick ascending fluid decreases. Sodium is added to the interstitial fluid, increasing its osmolarity. This creates an osmolarity difference between the interstitial fluid and the thick ascending limb. Water diffuses out of the thin descending limb until the fluid there has equilibrated with the interstitial fluid. Once the descending limb has equilibrated, fluid from the proximal tubule enters, pushing the higher osmolarity fluid below it down the loop of Henle. The osmolarities of the fluids in the descending limb and the interstitium are again mismatched, causing water to leave the descending limb until the two fluids have re-equilibrated. You can see a corticopapillary gradient being generated between the fluid in the cortex and the fluid below. These two steps are repeated with each cycle enhancing the gradient. Sodium leaves the ascending limb for the interstitial fluid, decreasing osmolarity in the ascending limb. The interstitial fluid osmolarity increases. Water diffuses out of the thin descending limb, increasing the osmolarity in the descending limb until it equilibrates with the interstitial fluid. Low osmolarity fluid from the proximal tubule pushes the fluid below it down the loop of Henle. Water leaves the descending limb to decrease interstitial fluid osmolarity and re-equilibrate. At its maximum, the
So this is the picture showing the transport of ions in the ascending limb. So in the thick segment of the ascending limb of loop of Henle, sodium and potassium together with two chloride ions enter into the tubular cells. So sodium is then actively transported out through sodium potassium pump. Sodium out, potassium in into the interstitial space, and then the chloride follows it passively. So potassium diffuses back. So from the tubular cell, from the cell which has already entered here. So this diffuses back into the filtrate, and some also enters into the interstitial space. So that's how sodium chloride are pumped out into the interstitial space from the ascending limb of loop of Henle. So now we will see the counter current exchange system which takes place in vasa recta simultaneously with the counter current multiplier system. So here solute gradient created by loop of Henle is maintained by the vasa recta by decreasing the solute dissipation. So in descending limb, what is happening? Solute is diffusing into the vessel whereas water is diffusing out. So solute enters, water moves out. And in ascending limb, solute diffuse out and water enters into the vessels. So thus solutes keep circulating. While recirculating in medulla, water is removed from it. While the solutes are recirculating in the medulla, water is removed from it. So this is the picture. In the descending limb, water moving out and solutes entering. In the ascending limb, water moving in and solutes going out. So vasa recta prevents the washdown of medullary concentration gradient while absorbing excess solutes. So whatever water which has uh, reabsorbed in the thin descending limb of loop of Henle, that water is being absorbed by the vasa recta. So this does not contribute to the production of medullary concentration gradient, but it helps to preserve it. And low blood flow, 5 to 10% of the total to the medulla, also helps in this maintenance of gradient or preventing the washdown of medullary concentration gradient which was produced by the loop of Henle. Okay, so again the same thing shown in this picture. So in descending vasa recta, water will be moving out and solutes will be entering, and ascending vasa recta, water will be entering in, solutes will be moving out. So you have to remember these two things. Loop of Henle is the countercurrent multiplier and vasa recta is the countercurrent exchanger. So these two are very important. This will come as MCQs and most commonly asked viva questions. And contribution of urea to the hyperosmotic renal medulla. So we have seen the multiplier and exchanger, and lastly contribution of urea. So urea contributes to 40 to 50% of osmolarity of renal medullary interstitium. Unlike sodium chloride, urea is passively reabsorbed from the tubule. When there is water deficit and blood concentrations of ADH are high, large amounts of urea are passively reabsorbed from the inner medullary collecting ducts into the interstitium. So when there is water deficit and blood concentration of ADH are high, large amounts of urea are passively reabsorbed from the inner medulla collecting ducts into the interstitium. Okay, so that's how the interstitium urea will be increased. So this is the picture showing the osmolarity at different segments of nephron. So proximal tubule, loop of Henle, you can see the medullary concentration gradient is loop of Henle. It is increased to 1200, and this distal tubule, diluting segment, and late distal tubule, cortical collecting duct and medullary collecting duct, the osmolarity has increased. And this lastly, the under the effect of ADH, the osmolarity is reached up to 1200. So ADH is mainly responsible for formation of dilute or concentrated urine. And collecting duct has also some role. It acts as an osmotic equilibrating device by its permeability to water and urea. And it uses the gradient created by loop of Henle and maintained by vasa recta in conjunction with the hormone vasopressin to produce urine of varying concentration. And vasopressin controlled variable water reabsorption occurs in the final tubular segments. 65% of water reabsorption is obligatory in the proximal tubule, and in the distal tubule and collecting duct it is variable based on the secretion of ADH. The secretion of vasopressin increases the permeability of tubule cells to water. An osmotic gradient exists outside the tubules for transport of water by osmosis. Vasopressin works on the tubule cells through a cyclic AMP mechanism. During a water deficit, secretion of vasopressin increases, and this increases water reabsorption. And the same opposite occurs when there is excess of water. So this vasopressin has very important role in producing the diluted or concentrated urine. So 65% of water reabsorption is obligatory in the proximal tubule. And in the distal and collecting tubule, this water reabsorption is based on the secretion of ADH. So the secretion of vasopressin increases the permeability of tubule cells to water. Vasopressin works on the tubule cells through cyclic AMP mechanisms. Okay, so this is the mechanism of action of vasopressin. So this you can see V2 receptor. This is AVP, arginine vasopressin. So nothing but ADH. So it binds to the receptor, and then through this adenyl cyclase or cyclic AMP mechanism, protein kinase A and protein phosphorylation, other proteins production, it inserts the aquaporins into the tubular cells so that water is reabsorbed. So that is the simple mechanism of action of vasopressin. And the role of ADH, as we have already seen, under the high ADH, many water channels are produced in the tubular cells so that water is more reabsorbed. So concentrated urine, small volume will be produced. And under the influence of low ADH, few water channels will be present. So there will be large volume dilute urine will be produced. So what is the obligatory urine volume? It is the minimal volume of urine that must be excreted each day to get rid of the body of products of metabolism and ingested ions. It depends upon the maximal concentrating ability of kidney. Total solutes to be excreted each day in 70 kg man is equal to 600 milliosmoles, and maximum concentration of ability of human kidney is 1200 milliosmoles per liter. So obligatory urine volume will be 600 divided by 1200, that is total solutes to be excreted are 600 and maximum concentration ability of human kidney is 1200. So it is 0.5 liters per day is the obligatory urine volume. And disorders of urinary concentrating ability are inappropriate secretion of ADH, that is decreased ADH is seen in central diabetes insipidus, and increased ADH is seen in syndrome of inappropriate secretion of ADH, SIADH, and impairment of countercurrent mechanism, that is high flow rate leads to osmotic diuresis, and inability of tubules to respond to ADH is seen in nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. So these are some of the disorders of urine concentrating ability. So lastly, summary of today's class. Every time tubular fluid passes through loop of Henle, water comes out of descending limb into the interstitium, and which is removed by ascending limb of vasa recta. And solutes come out of ascending limb into the interstitium. Thus high osmolality is maintained in medulla. This causes movement of water out of the collecting duct and makes the urine concentrated. Okay, so this is the gist of today's class. If you understand this, definitely you are able to expand the countercurrent mechanism into multiplier, exchanger, and role of. Lastly, a small word about urea, and then you can easily draw those diagrams, and so that's how you'll be able to remember this topic for a long time. So read it from the textbook once and you'll be definitely understanding this topic. It is very easy and very important. Short question, or it may come as essay for sometimes. So that's all for today. Thank you all.